I really appreciate the fact that you have taken time to stop and listen to Fresh Air at 5. This is episode 106 of the podcast. And on this episode, we talk about some more one word. We talk about the impact. We talk about ChatGPT and other things like that. So, jump in, take a listen, tell your friends, subscribe, leave an Apple Podcast review. I don't know if I've gotten many of those, but, there's that. And I just hope you're having a fabulous day wherever you are. And if you're not, maybe you'll smile after. Listen to me ramble about all the things that I am learning as I'm walking in my neighborhood. All right, so get out there, get some fresh air. Oh, and without further ado, here's Fresh Air at 5.
I'm Chris Stutchko, co-host of the 9th Grade Experience podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Brian Carpenter. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to exercise by walking about my neighborhood, to take in podcast content, then reflect in an unedited video, which I finally post to my Twitter channel. This podcast will be a regular collection of the audio from these selfie videos. You can follow me on Twitter at Fresh Air at 5 or check out my website, briancarpenter.com, for other content I have created and collected.
Hey PLN, it is Tuesday, January 17th, 2023. Good morning to you. Welcome to Tuesday. Yesterday I skipped. Lots going on in my life right now. And, I need some rest. Just like the moon needs some rest. We just came through a new moon, I think, or maybe we're just approaching that. I'm looking up in the sky, and it needs a smidge of rest from reflecting light on Earth, and it'll come back to being bright. So yes, I'm here now this morning, feeling refreshed. Had a fantastic sleep last night, and I'm back on the street. Taking care of ourselves is really important. We know that, but do we do that? So, If I have some spurts and stops here, that'd be why, because I got to take care of myself, and walking is important, recording is important, but sometimes I just got to sleep in and get some more rest. All right, this morning as I'm out walking, I listened to the Tom Schimmer podcast, and I can't recall exactly what episode number this is, but it is the first one in 2023. And Tom, that's not on you, that's on me, because I forgot to look before I press record here. But it's the first one for 2023, and just as expected, you bring up one word, 2023. And I appreciate your honesty and vulnerability, saying that you had your one word 2022 and that it was an epic failure for you. It wasn't an epic failure. You made an impact, Tom. You made an impact in people's lives. You maybe didn't pay attention to where that impact was being made or how it was affecting you. But I want you to know that this guy right here, walking down the street in the dark, and that we had coffee and breakfast recently, is impacted by the work that you were doing. So keep on doing that. I appreciate it so much. And people, you want to have had an impact by Tom Schimmer, I encourage you all to start listening to the Tom Schimmer podcast. He's got bi-weekly episodes coming now this year for 2023, up until the summertime. So it's an easier entry than the weekly podcast listening. So take a listen. This one is fantastic. So I'll get that episode number right now, coming up in one more thing. Hang on. Hey, one more thing for January 17, 2023. Keeping going on episode number 96 of the Tom Schimmer Show with Tom Schimmer. It was great to hear him talk about one word and his struggles and joys with that. So, Tom, one word for 2023 for you, impact. And I'm looking forward to watching and seeing how you present yourself on this. And you know what? Sounds like a lot of work sometimes, but if it's something that brings you joy, then keep on doing that. Yes. My one word for 2023 is forth, to bring forth, to bring to light, and to from the start, and to bring forward. So it's an adverb. It's a weird word. My students were like, what kind of word is that, Mr. Carpenter? But that's my one word. All right, in your interview this morning that I listened to, you talk with Jan Chapius of the Assessment Training Institute out of Portland, and you had gone to that training years ago, and you had a great conversation about assessment and grading. And you know what? I was like, man, I don't know. But after listening, I was like, yep, it makes a difference. You know, assessment happened to me in high school. Assessment happened to me in college. And as far as that formative discussion, as far as that me engaged in my learning, other than me doing the learning and then having the assessment done to me so that others could report an arbitrary grade, oh my goodness, that's not even arbitrary, had an impact on my growing. And it wasn't until in my early days of student teaching that we started talking about formative assessment. In my first year, we talked about the difference between formative and summative as these two boxes of doing assessment, and how we engage students before we give them a final test and then they walk away. I'm guilty of the latter still, about, assessing students and then just giving them a mark. Grades aren't arbitrary. They have meaning behind them, and I make decisions. All right, more coming up. Thanks, Jan Chapius, for your conversation with Tom. It was fantastic. The last thing for January 17, 2023, as I'm wrapping up my recording right now, I'm continuing on with episode 96 of the Tom Schimmer podcast, as Tom talks with, Jan Chapius of the Assessment Training Institute. Go take a listen to this interview. It's fantastic. I want to bring forth this idea that, we have an impact on student learning. We as teachers, we do that, and we don't need to be constrained to the summative test, but we can have conversations along the way and encourage students to be confident in who they are and what they know. If we're not teaching them the material, we have to teach them how to learn the material and provide opportunities. So there's a lot going on both sides of that. All right, in the very end, Tom, in Assessment Corner, you talk about grades are not arbitrary. And you know what? I find that conversation you had, this discussion you had about arbitrary grades, and people are like, well, grades are just arbitrary, so what does it matter? But you know what? Our bias and our perspective as teachers about the learner, for reasons one or another, we have to assess and provide a final grade to the Ministry of Education. I'd rather not. Don't care for that part of the job, but it's important because how can we look at all of this formative, discussion-based, prove who you are. I have to read pages and pages of assessment stuff without a grade at the top to know quickly that a student has an idea about what we're talking about. I do like the idea of more discussion-based assessment, engaging with the student in how they do that. But yes, I agree that at the end of the day, we need to provide a grade that goes into a database. So when they look up Brian Carpenter, they can find out what he got in Chemistry 12. All right, that's all for now. Thanks so much, Tom. Hey, I'm looking forward to your interview with Tim Stevenson coming up next. It's fantastic to hear you guys that are connecting, and I look forward to connecting with you again too soon, Tom. Have a fab day. Bye. Hey, PLN, Wednesday, January 18, 2022. Can you believe it? It's already the 18th of January. I can't. It's crazy stuff. That things are moving so fast here in January, but we're making progress, and it's fantastic, actually. All right, as I'm walking this morning, I listened to Seeing to Lead podcast with Dr. Chris Jones, the episode that came out this week. I think it was on Sunday, as he interviewed Dr. Carla LaHaye, and they talked about patience and understanding and school culture and vocational versus university track schools and the difference that connection makes in a school. Something that they were talking about is you can tell about the culture of a building in the first 5 minutes that you walk into a building. What are you going to be noticing? You know, when I was young, the culture of our school was library, and we were library and quiet and just very organized and controlled, and didn't have a lot of fun, except on that one Friday afternoon that we have movies and Texas Donuts. But it wasn't a whole lot of other things going on with school culture, other than, you know, go to your class, do your job, and then leave at the end of the day. Was it my school? I don't know. Maybe it was my school in the neighborhood of, difficult, lower income things that happened that caused that to happen. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just the leadership. And that was back in the 70s and 80s. But here we are now in 2023. And how are we making a difference in our school culture? How do you notice the people in your building doing the things that you're doing? How do you notice the students that are doing the things that they're doing? So thank you, Carla and Chris, for this conversation. It was encouraging. People, take a listen to this conversation. I was privileged to talk with Dr. Chris Jones last week on Friday as we recorded an upcoming episode of Seeing to Lead podcast. It was so exciting. And you know what, Chris? I left that conversation with just like, wow, that was fantastic. You know, Chris is a great interviewer. He brings out questions and asks you things. And we had a fantastic conversation about creativity and about passion and about empathy and sympathy. All right, that's all I got. Have a fabulous day. Okay, bye-bye. The last thing for January 18, 2023, I listened to episode 216 of the House of Ed Tech with Chris Nessie. And Chris, thanks so much for another episode. Fantastic to hear you excited about the future of educational technology and your trends and predictions that you are making with, increased online and blended learning, the increased use of, and it's not going away, AI in our spaces, and people's engagement in technology. You had a recommendation in this about Apple Freeform, which is a new whiteboarding tool for Apple and iPads. And so I'm going to download that on my iPad and take a check out of that, because that might be a good, Apple tool that can help me do with some whiteboarding. How can it connect to my Microsoft stuff? Not sure. Maybe I can draw some cool pictures and then bring them into my courses or things like that, but we'll have to see how that goes. All right, you talked about increasing your engagement on social media and specifically Twitter. And Chris, thanks so much for that list. I am hitting all those marks about reach, frequency, who I'm connected with, and being present on Twitter. All right, I hope you found value in what I had to say this morning. Go check out House of Ed Tech episode 216 as you get going with your day. Peace out. Get out and get some fresh air. All right, it's about 5 degrees Celsius here, and cloudy skies, not raining. Have a fabulous day. Okay, see you, Chris. Bye. APLN Thursday, January 19th, 2023. I'm just walking down the street right now, and it's so funny. It's so hilarious. So funny. Okay, nothing that I saw as I'm walking down the street. I'm doing my normal routine this morning, but as I'm walking, I'm listening to episode 153 of Check This Out podcast with Ryan O'Donnell and Brian Briggs. And these guys, they make me laugh. They've made me laugh for years as I'm listening to an educational technology podcast, but just how they bring their humor and joy into this podcast is just fantastic. Hey, Brian and Brian, good to hear your voice again. And I'm looking to hear it. I don't know, is that on Memorial Day or Independence Day? You guys are sporadic, but kind of fixed on calendar things, because it's Martin Luther King Day when you guys record this or put this one out. So anyhow, that being said, episode 153, you guys dig into AI, and it's called AI Yep. Now you got to listen to where that yip comes from, because that's pretty funny. But you guys talk about AI, and how about ChatGPT, because that's the rage right now, and it has come to the surface, kind of like, I don't know, a sea creature that has just breached the surface of ability to do AI things. Like, we can ask it a question, it can give us thoughtful, in the way I've seen it a little bit and what I've heard people talk about, thoughtful ways that gives you some interesting content that comes out of it that could be used in education. Our fear with AI is that we're going to have kids stop thinking for themselves. And I don't know, are we going to have them stop or have kids already just stop thinking already? That's a big question. We've got, my goodness, AI tools all around us that we rely on, that we appreciate, that we like Siri. Like, we're talking to Siri, and Siri hears and interprets and makes choices about words that we put into our text messages and things like that. Okay, I can go on and on about this, but there's other things to check out, like Tiny Wow is a PDF editor, like image editor, audio, podcast, like sound, all kinds of stuff. There's a whole lot of good stuff in here. Take a look at their show notes. Brilliant, gents. Have a fabulous day. Peace out. Bye. Okay, I'm not done as usual. January 19, 2023. One more thing. Okay, so as I'm continuing on about episode 153 of Check This Out podcast with Brian Briggs, Brian O'Donnell and Brian Briggs, not Ryan O'Brien. Oh my goodness, that's like an AI issue or something going on. But they have an intriguing show. Like, seriously, go take a listen to their conversation. Yeah, they're full of laughs and good times, but it's important content that we do consider. AI is not going to be going away. Are we fearing the AI, or are we embracing the AI? Are we aware of it? Like, we watch science fiction movies. We watch, Terminator, which is like bad AI. But we watch other things like, I don't know, WALL-E, which is good AI, except when, at the end we find out that the people are all lazy. But we watch Star Wars, where the droids are artificially intelligent. They think for themselves, make decisions, and go places. Are we afraid of it, or are we embracing it? Wolfram Alpha, I don't know if you remember that, came back out in the around 2009 and 2010, and I'm like, whoa, that's bad for math, because kids can put the math question in there and get the answer. Well, yeah, they can, but if we're cheating and using things to do the work that we should be doing, are we going to become dependent on that and not be able to stand on our own feet? Or should we understand how we can use these tools for good and not for evil? There's a whole lot of AI tools that I enjoy and appreciate. Remove background. The fact that I can give it a picture with a background in it, and the artificial intelligence goes and does the stuff that was very difficult in Photoshop to do for years, is now at a snap of my finger, and I can get a remove background image. Remove BG, Canva, Adobe Express, etc., etc. All right, guys, have a good day. Talk to you. Bye. Hey, PL, and it's Friday, January 20th, 2023, out for Fresh Air at 5 this morning, and my goodness, it's crisp, 2 degrees Celsius, and this weekend I'm going to CRISPR. We're going up to this place on my hat, so we're going to be away with our family, so that's going to be really exciting. Got to get through a day of work first before we hit the road and go have some fun with our friends as well. Up at Manning Park, so looking forward to that. All right, this morning I turned on episode 40 of Evolving with Gratitude, and earlier this week I pressed play on this, but it didn't load for some reason, so I moved on to the other podcasts that I listened to, and this morning Evolving with Gratitude started up. It's not by accident. As we get going here with listening, I learned about Bree Hodges and who Bree Hodges is, a mom, and an educator, and an equestrian person raising horses. And Lainey Rowell, thank you so much for having Bree on, your friend. And you know what? At the outset of it, you guys said you were talking for a while, and that we should probably press record because the others need to hear what we're talking about, and it's very evident that you two are friends, and just how you have worked together in the past on your other podcast that I can't remember the name of right now, but that you're working together and growing and learning and caring about each other, and it's incredible. All right, Bree had talked about gratitude, about being grateful and then naming the impact. And you know what? That's so actually true, because we can be grateful for something, but if we don't do something with that, how do we tell the person or express how whatever it is has made an impact? Coming full circle this week, Bree Hodges, Tom Schimmer, in his episode, talked about his one word for 2023 being impact. And Tom and Bree, if you haven't connected, maybe you should, because yes, having an impact is awesome. It's incredible, and it's incredible to see where that happens. Thanks, Bree. Thanks, Lainey. Appreciate it. Have a fabulous day. Okay, bye-bye. The last thing for January 2020 is I'm out walking and wrapping up my day here on Fresh Air at 5. I picked up and listened to the second question with Martin Silverman, as Martin on season 3, episode 9, talks with PJ Cabrera, who is a journalism teacher at a school in San Antonio and or nearby in Texas. And so as PJ was talking about his career and what he's doing, I heard some of my story in there. I heard the likeness of Carpenter, as I have the privilege and honor at my school of teaching digital literacy and digital citizenship and media design and telling story. And, I'm learning how to do this. I never took any formal classes on how to do this, so I'm making it up as I go along. But the fact that, my connection here is that, I teach newsletter at my school. I do that through our media design class, and these are some projects that we have picked up over the past 3 years or 4 years now. It's the 4th year. And how we took on last year our yearbook for the very first time. We didn't have a yearbook at my school, and how we are doing yearbook and, the things that are challenging, and how do we share, the mass media about our school. It's not big. It's small. It's very small. But, who hears it, who sees it, and how does that affect the culture of a place? So PJ, thanks so much. I appreciate hearing you talk about how you, have your social media for your school, but you don't let students at it. But it's vetted through you, because it's about reputation. It's about influence. It's about who is there. And, it's so important that we are aware of that as adults, that our social media is about, our reputation. It's about who people perceive us to be, whether it's the truth or not. So be careful how you post. Hey, Marty and PJ, thanks so much. Have a fabulous day. Happy Friday. Bye.
As my one word for 2021 is appreciate, I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific podcast episodes in the show notes for your learning convenience. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoyed this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can also be found on Voice Ed Radio. Your voice is right here, and on the Education Podcast Network, Podcasts for Educators, Podcasts by Educators. I hope you have a fantastic day and get some fresh air before the day is out, and take care of yourself, because you're worth it.